Rachel White is a cocktail waitress at a truck stop strip club in an interstate cowtown in Central California. As her life spirals out of control, poverty and paranoia force her to make a string of increasingly desperate decisions. Decisions that will lead her to the Hell Patrol, a paramilitary organization of hot rod driving mercenaries that hunt demons for fame and fortune. This is Hell Patrol Origins. Welcome to Hell Patrol, Rachel White. I can see they were very creative down at the orphanage when they made up your last name. I'm Staff Sergeant Marshall Brady, a recruiter. Soon you'll meet some of our veteran Hell Patrollers. Fucked up in the first paragraph. Oh man. Soon you'll meet some other veteran Hell Patrollers, our in-house mechanics, our shrink, and some other support staff. Your shrink? Rachel asked. It's a rough job and a rough life. We offer free counseling to Hell Patrollers. It's in your contract, but I think for now, we need to focus on the most essential perk of the job, Sergeant Brady said. Which is? Rachel asked. Well, the leather jacket, of course. Never leave home without it. Literally, don't ever leave your home without that jacket. You should always have it on, whether you're on duty or off, he said. Why? Rachel asked. It marks you as Hell Patrol. You'll get respect. People won't treat you like, a tiefling. Do you think that's going to scare off my stalker? Just me wearing a leather jacket with the white embroidered pentagram logo? Rachel asked. No, but all the guns you'll be allowed to carry in the badass car should help. And cops will be way more attentive to your side of the story if you kill him in self-defense. Assuming he didn't bleed out already. You said you shot him but didn't kill him. I did, Rachel said. Well, it was a 38. A 38 to the gut will put most people down eventually if they don't get help. I guess we'll see. In any case, you look like a woman's medium. Staff Sergeant Brady got up, opened a closet behind his desk, found a medium leather jacket and pulled it out and took it off the clothes hanger. Rachel saw that it was a fairly standard leather motorcycle jacket. But like other Hell Patrol jackets she had seen before, it had a large embroidered logo of a white pentagram on the back. We'll custom order an embroidered patch with your name on it and have it sewn on the breast, Brady said. Now why don't you follow me to the dormitory where you'll be staying tonight? I think your friend Alex is in there. Do all Hell Patrollers stay in that dorm? Rachel asked. No, only when they need to. It's always open, though. As you may have noticed, we generally don't get recruits unless they're very desperate, financially, criminally, or sometimes just bored of their dead-end jobs if they get that far. We give them a place to crash so they can get up on their feet, Brady explained. Brady opened a locked security door in the back of the room and led Rachel down a hall. This building used to be a jail, of course. We turned one of the cell blocks into the dorm. When Hell Patrol started, we didn't have this service to offer our recruits, and it led to massive attrition. We could lose candidates when their past caught up with them, so it made sense to provide some amenities so they weren't swallowed up by the streets. Sounds like an awful metaphor. For an organization that fights demons, a lot of your sales pitches sound a lot like Faustian bargains. I'm afraid you're not going to find a lot of sympathy for that argument here, he said. Why not? Rachel asked. Most tieflings wouldn't get the Faust reference you just made. They were either poorly educated or don't like stories about hell and damnation, of course, Brady said. Well, that makes sense. He stopped in front of another security door. These will be unlocked. The only locked door will be the one up the hall I led you through, for your safety. I have the key, as will some other members of the facilities team. If you want to leave the premises, just come to that door and knock on it. I'll be sitting in the recruiting office, naturally. What should I do to kill time? I shouldn't be out on the street right now, Rachel said. You could read the contract, of course. You should see your perks. For starters, you're getting a free car. Like the pink slip and everything? You're just going to sign a car over to me? Rachel asked. Well, actually, yes. We've found that it's better for our legal precedents and the efficiency of Hell Patrol to treat the Hell Patrollers themselves as private military contractors, responsible for their own equipment. This will, of course, make you completely responsible for your own vehicle and weapons, but as a benefit, you'll have total authority over how you conduct your missions and equip yourself, Brady said. So what kind of car is it? Rachel asked. An excellent question. We'll find out tomorrow when we run you through the driving test. Driving test? To establish your competence behind the wheel. This might come as a shock, but a driver's license is not a prerequisite for Hell Patrol. Most tieflings can't drive or aren't interested in cars. The orphanages either didn't help them achieve certain milestones of adulthood, or they just never bothered because they figured they'd always be too poor to afford their own wheels, Brady explained. So you use a driving test to distribute the free cars? Correct. We give the better cars to the candidates that are likely to make good use of them, and the poorer cars to those that don't have the skill or knowledge to appreciate the good ones, Brady said. Where do these cars come from? The government, mostly. We prefer retired police vehicles because they're already built and equipped to a certain standard. But we've acquired and sent out some pretty ridiculous cars in the past. Turn-in programs, police auctions, whatever used cars the dealers can't sell that they liquidate to us for a tax break. It's hit or miss. But if we don't assign them to candidates, they get sent to the crusher. So we try to put the best people in the best ones. You can actually drive. So the chances of you getting one of the better cars is significant. Brady led her into a space that Rachel could tell was once a cell block. There were rust stains and holes in the floor from where the jail bars had been ripped up, and privacy curtains had been installed and tied off with ropes. The cots on the walls had chairs in front of them to be used as makeshift desks, and there was another privacy curtain around that was probably the cell's toilet, and a real bed frame with a real mattress. There's a kitchenette with a microwave and a toaster oven further down there by the showers. The cupboards are full of coffee and food items. It's a kind of bachelor status. There's only a mini fridge and we don't really stock the place unless we know someone is crashing. If there's anything you'd like to eat, I'd be happy to get it for you, Brady said. I'm fine for now. I think I'd like to read the contract. Where's Alex? She stuck around? She might be taking the tour with someone. The formal orientation will be tomorrow. Reading the contract is a good idea. You should settle in and relax. I'll leave you to it, Brady said. He walked away. Rachel sat down on the mattress in the first cell and threw the crumpled and folded contract down next to her. She knew she should have read it, but she didn't really want to. Didn't feel like it. There was a lot she needed to process. She thought about calling Johnny. She promised him she would, but she didn't want to. She knew he'd be mad, but there was nothing either of them could do about it. It would just be an emotionally draining conversation. So she put it off. The security door clicked. Rachel looked up and saw the happy-looking tiefling, the pompadour greaser named Henry, lock eyes on her through his sunglasses and smile. He came into the room, unzipped his jacket, sat down on the mattress, and took off his glasses. You know, for a guy that loves his job so much, Brady really fucking sucks at it, Henry said. What do you mean? Rachel asked. Oh, you look pretty trashed. I heard something bad happened and you ran in here and Brady sweet talked you, and now you're sitting here in a repurposed jail cell wondering what the fuck you just did with your life. You know, I don't think he understands irony, Henry said. He said tieflings don't understand irony because we're poorly educated. That's what he said when I mentioned Faust. Ha! More like we wish we didn't know who Faust was, right? Henry asked. Anyway, if he's not going to smooth you out, I will. Alright, first things first. You're not going to die. At least not on your first assignment. You need to level up to some pretty haggard shit to really lose your ass in this game. You could stay down in the minor leagues and just farm zombies if you wanted. There's no shame in that. You better slow down and explain that more, Rachel said. Oh, yeah, of course. I guess this crap was, Brady was gonna save it for tomorrow. Okay, look, here's the cheat sheet. Back in the old days, when Hell Patrol started, they just threw the tieflings into cars and told them to go nuts. A lot of them died, either because they couldn't drive for shit or they bit off more than they could chew. The attrition rates were unsustainable. They needed some kind of training or learning curve to keep the rookies in the game after their first mission, Henry said. What did they do? Rachel asked. They started out sending out new kids with the vets, a chaperone. Also, they put the rookies on zombie sweeps. Zombies aren't as bad as demons. They're slow, they're stupid, they come right up to the car and let you run them over or shoot them. Helps you get a feel for the job, get used to the sight of blood and stuff, Henry said. Can you get infected? Rachel asked. No. Nah, that's just in the movies. These are, necromantic zombies. Animated corpses left over from the war. They're full of demonic energy, not any kind of, like a weird science fiction virus. You don't become one by getting bit. Well, if they're so easy to kill and not that dangerous, that might actually be fun, Rachel said. Oh, hell yeah, it is. Look, you just don't get out of the car until I say so. You're safe in the car. But zombies can still mob you and drag you down if you're on foot. You'll see. We'll drive in a formation. We call it mowing the lawn, Henry said. But that's the thing. You see, now they actually do a bit of driver training. They send the rookies out with a babysitter, let them cut their teeth. If you get to the big leagues, yeah, it gets weird. But you're not going to die on your first drive. I'll make sure of that. Brady mentioned that there was a company psychiatrist on staff, Rachel asked. Oh, yeah, Doc Atwood. Yeah, she's great. She's as good at her job as Brady is as bad at his. You got something you want to talk about with her? You know, get something off your chest? Brady said you came in here desperate. That's not news. That's how they get us. We're all desperate when we sign the contract. Maybe you could use some couch time with the doc, Henry said. You know, that's probably a good idea, Rachel said. Come on, let's go. I'd rather you kill some time with her than hang around in this moody jail cell, Henry said. Henry took Rachel out of the cell block and back down the hall. There was a room behind a safety glass window that used to be a guard station. Henry opened the door without knocking. Inside there was a desk, a couch, some bookshelves and fake plants, and a curly-haired elderly woman sitting in a leather chair. Hey, Doc, this is Rachel. She's new and she needs some couch time, Henry said. The kindly old woman gestured to the couch. It's nice to meet you, Rachel. Please come in and make yourself comfortable. Thanks for introducing us, Henry. Yeah, I'll be around. I gotta go talk to Cooter about getting some new headers installed. Henry waved and left. Dr. Atwood got up and closed the door behind him. She tapped on the glass with a delicate knuckle. Before we start, you should know that what we say in here is completely confidential. There are no security cameras in this office, and it's been soundproofed. Now, lovely young lady, what's troubling you? Well, I'm an impoverished tiefling cocktail waitress being stalked by a weirdo that tried to strangle and kidnap me, and I shot him with a stolen gun and ran away to join Hell Patrol because I was promised that they could conceal my crime, Rachel said. Well, that's quite something to be worried about. Would you feel better if I told you that Hell Patrol administration is productively nefarious when it comes to solving problems like that? Dr. Askwood asked. Dr. Askwood? No. It's Dr. Atwood. Her name is Dr. Marge Atwood. Productively nefarious? Rachel asked. Meaning that the problem will be solved, legally or less legally. Hell Patrol doesn't like its contractors getting killed, especially outside their duties. Tieflings come from a colorful variety of disadvantaged conditions. Some of them include a lot of baggage that needs to be resolved. It gets resolved, Dr. Atwood said. Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot, but to be fair, I'm not that worried about it. Unless he survives. But I'm pretty sure I shot him in the gut with a .38, so I like my odds, Rachel said, lying down on the couch. You feel no remorse? Dr. Atwood asked. No. He's been stalking me the whole week. He tried to buy me a drink in the club where I worked. The bouncer caught him with date rape drugs. I've been crashing with friends, fearing for my safety. If I could do it all over again, I would have pulled that hammer back and put all 6 rounds in him, Rachel said. I don't think it's unreasonable for you to desire revenge against someone who meant you harm, despite your methods not being entirely legal, Dr. Atwood said. The only tool I had to defend myself with was the stolen gun. I had no other choice. He had the rope around my neck, Rachel said. Yes, but you survived and you're happy you shot him. I'm happy you shot him. You took a date rapist off the street. We should throw a party in your honor, Dr. Atwood said. Thank you. I'm glad someone else feels that way, Rachel sighed in relief. So, if a completely justified sense of vengeance isn't bothering you, that's not why you're here. What do you mean here? Rachel started. In my office. On my couch. What's really bothering you? She asked. I'm uncomfortable with my heritage. Things have started happening in my body. Things from my demonic heritage that I don't understand. It's like puberty, but instead of hair growing in new places or my period starting, it's weird hell shit, Rachel said. Yes, unfortunately, tiefling physiology is not well understood, or for that matter, researched that thoroughly at all, Dr. Atwood said. You'll be happy to know, though, that you aren't the first tiefling that's come into this office experiencing some kind of strange phenomena because of your demonic contamination. I assure you that it happens to a lot of tieflings, and so far the mutations have been unanimously vestigial and benign, the doctor explained. Well, I like the sound of vestigial and benign, but why did you call it demonic contamination? Rachel asked. Oh, no one told you, did they? Well, of course they didn't. You were raised at the orphanage, weren't you? They taught you to hide that part of you, brushed under the rug, try not to think about it. They taught me that I killed my mother when I was born by slashing her birth canal with my horns, and that she bled out. It was preventable, but the demons in the slave camps let women die in childbirth as a form of blood sacrifice. They taught me that my father was a murderous rapist that came to Earth to destroy it. There's not really anything there to think about, Rachel said. Well, that's not your fault. You didn't choose that, Dr. Atwood said. More importantly, did you know that most tieflings are completely human? That's why I referred to it as demonic contamination, Atwood said. What do you mean? Rachel asked. Scientists have run tiefling DNA through tests. It's 100% human. It comes back completely human. You see, demons don't actually have DNA the way we understand it. Nearly every tiefling is born from a human sperm and a human egg. Whatever hocus pocus the demons do to make a tiefling, it's not accountable in genetics 90% of the time. Most tieflings are human, Dr. Atwood said. How? I've heard of tieflings being born out of succubi that actually survived the pregnancy. How could a tiefling not be a half-demon after being born out of a demonic womb? Rachel asked. Well, as much as it pains me to defer to religion on matters of science, some of the ancient texts are right. Incubi and succubi are the same species of demon, using the word species for lack of a better word. They are also supposedly shapeshifters, so they're the same thing. They can change sex at will to seduce any mortal target they desire. They have means of stealing genetic data from both men and women. The sperm, naturally, is the most obvious one, but there is some means by which they can also steal a woman's egg. Hence, most tiefling pregnancies, even those from the wombs of actual demons, are human pregnancies that are contaminated by demonic essence. Genetically, they are still human, Dr. Atwood said. You said most, Rachel noted. Well, we can't be sure, but sometimes a tiefling's blood work doesn't come all the way back, Atwood said. How do you mean that? Rachel asked. I mean that genetically the tiefling is a clone. Not in the sense that it's a literal copy of its parent, but that the scientists can only detect one set of DNA, one parent. There's no evidence of another parent. Like how a gardener clips a piece off of a plant and replants it, and it regrows. There's no pollination, no germination. The clipping is said to be a clone of the original. Science can't find the data. There's no way they know how to see the other parent. We know something's there, but it's like trying to stare into a black hole. You don't actually see the black hole. You see the light being sucked into it, Atwood explained. What does that mean? Rachel asked. It means that the demonic influence on their DNA is there, but we have no idea how to interpret it. So we have to turn to esoteric lore once again. We believe these tieflings, the ones that actually have a demonic heritage, aren't just stolen human DNA implanted in a surrogate womb. What do you mean by esoteric lore? Rachel said. Well, the correct term is Cambion. Someone who is not just a tiefling, but an actual half-demon. Someone with an actual demon parent, Dr. Atwood said. Again, it's stuff from ancient religious texts. The source is dubious. Well, is it dubious when it's true? Rachel asked. Well, here's the problem. We know that hell exists. We've seen it. Damn, they honking in the hood outside, boys. All right, I'm gonna restart this paragraph because this is actually one of the most important paragraphs in the story. Move your car, asshole. Fuck. Okay. No, one shot. No edits, no retakes. The problem is that we know that hell exists. We've seen it. We assume that purgatory exists because Mephistopheles occupies it and negotiated with the Vatican to enter it. That's how the war ended. But whether or not there is a heaven, or a God, or his angels remains to be seen. We've seen lots of evidence of the former, but not much of the latter. Philosophically, it's a troubling dilemma. Knowing there's a hell, honk honk, but not knowing if there's heaven. Only one way to find out. And of course, you can't come back and share the information with the class, Atwood said. Okay, Rachel said. The existence of Cambions, this special 1 in 10 tiefling that actually has demonic heritage, is really quite hopeful evidence of the existence of heaven and angels, meaning that having actual demonic heritage is something to be happy about. How? Rachel asked. Because according to the ancient texts, and corroborated by demons that professional demonologists have spoken with, assuming they can be trusted, demons, by and large, are incapable of sexual reproduction. It's simply not how they're made. The succubi and incubi require stolen sperm and egg to make those genetically human tieflings. There's only one type of demon that can actually sexually conceive a child with a human, and that's a devil, Atwood explained. What's the difference between a devil and a demon? It's the same shit with different words, Rachel said. Oh, my dear, there's quite a difference. Demons are just demons, apparently. But a devil is a fallen angel. That's the distinction. So you see, there's no point in feeling any guilt over being a tiefling. You're either 100% human, or if you're very lucky, you're half angel. And that must be a lovely thing, to hope that angels really exist, Atwood said. That doesn't really help you if your fallen angel daddy came to Earth in 1999 and murdered millions of people and destroyed the world, Rachel said. Well, my dear, a demon will always be a demon. They're never afforded the choice. But a tiefling is a human. At least there was a time once when a devil was an angel. Whether a tiefling be a whole human or a half angel, they at least get to choose who they are. They don't have to be ashamed of how they're born, Dr. Atwood said. Not as bad when you put it in that perspective. Well, perspective is the way we interpret reality, dear. It's the only thing that matters, Atwood said. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Shoot, Rachel said. How do you know that your father is a demon and your mother died in blood sacrifice? Atwood asked. I'm sure you know that the demons did keep records. You know, weird ones. On human skin with ink made of blood. They did record births. There's photographs of those records in my file. The military had the sense to record it before they burned it all, so they could come back to it later if they needed to, for some reason, I imagine, Rachel said. I can understand why you'd only want to look at that once and then never again, Dr. Atwood replied. Was there any mention of your father? Who he was? You said a demon. I'm not sure. The demonic records were grisly. They were mostly concerned with details that only demons would care about, I guess. Weird shit, torture, how much blood my mother lost, how long it took her to die. It was fucked up, but what do you expect, right? They're demons, Rachel said. Well, I'm not a doctor of the medical sense, or a demonologist, but for what it's worth, I would venture to guess that you might be a Cambion, Rachel, Atwood said. What makes you think that? Well, you do have a distinct and rare set of demonic mutations that is not very common. Among the small sample of tiefling genetics that have been studied, the classic Red Devil tiefling is a human. The more esoteric and strange the demonic features are, the more likely it is that they're Cambions. You're a very unique specimen, Rachel. I would bet on it. What do I do with this information? Rachel asked. Throw a party, I suppose. There's a good chance you're a half-angel, after a fashion. A fallen angel, but still an angel. Silver linings, dear. I don't know how that helps, Rachel said. It's psychology, dear. It helps you by talking it out. You get out what you put in. If I could give you a pill to solve your problems and make you love yourself, well, I'd be out of a job, Dr. Atwood smiled. You do love yourself, don't you? I haven't thought about that a lot lately. There's been more pressing issues. That's fair, given that you literally just shot someone who was trying to abduct you. Are you sexually active? Are there men in your life? Atwood asked. There's a therapy dick. A therapy dick? Dr. Atwood asked. Well, he's not really a boyfriend. He's a guy that I fuck when I'm exhausted, when I don't want to be alone, and when I don't feel safe, Rachel said. Well, you're ahead of the curve. Because I hook up with a big thuggish guy to fuck my problems away for a night? You understand the value of recreational sex as a therapeutic device, and you have boundaries in the relationship and no expectations. That puts you ahead of 90% of my clientele, Atwood said. Is there any chance he might make it to boyfriend? I don't know. He's also the therapy dick for, well, all the girls I know. I feel like that kind of acts as his relationship potential. Darling, a man who is good in bed didn't get good in bed by a lack of experience, Dr. Atwood said. Yeah, he'd probably say something like that. Well, let's just keep him where he is for now, then. Don't fix something that isn't broken. It seems to be working for you. I would recommend that you continue to practice that form of stress release, provided you conduct yourself safely, of course. There was a knock at the door. Dr. Atwood got up from her chair and opened it. Henry was standing there, his glasses on his forehead, a perpetual smile glued to his lips. Hey, how's it going, Doc? Mind if I steal your patient? Oh, I think we've had enough for now. Would you like to go with Henry, Rachel? Dr. Atwood asked. Yeah, thanks. I actually think that really helped, Rachel said, and got up off the couch. She followed Henry out of the office. He shut the door behind her. So, she told you the story about how we're all human and some of us might be angels? Henry asked. How'd you know? Oh, we're all the same, really. All the same baggage, I guess. I mean, if it works, then it works, right? More fun to think about than the alternative, Henry said. Me? I was a little disappointed. I like being me. I couldn't imagine not being red and horny all the time. Are you coming on to me? Rachel asked. Huh? No, it was a joke. Horny. Horny because we got horns, right? Besides, I love this job so much. I wouldn't make things complicated by fishing off the company pier. Hey, I do have a present for you in my pocket, though. I'm happy to see you. Now you're fucking with me, Rachel said. No, I'm serious. Come on back to the room. I got something for you. And it's not a pickup line, Henry said. He led her back down the hall to the dorm and opened the door. So, tomorrow is your first official day. They're gonna give you the driving test, measure your head for a crash helmet, watch some dumb videos about the history of the organization, and, at the end of the day, you'll have your badass new car. Measure my head? Henry led her back to the cell she had taken,
Yeah. So, they cut up old motorcycle helmets to fit your horns. Problem is, it really compromises the integrity of the helmet, making it almost useless. But, it's better than nothing. And after you get paid, you can buy a real one that's actually designed to fit you and still works right.
Well, I guess the thought that counts, Rachel shrugged. Henry sat down on her bed and patted the mattress next to him.
Yeah, I talked to Brady. He told me I could, jump the line for you on one of the perks.
What perks? Rachel asked.
Normally, tomorrow, they'd give you a gun. The first one's free, it's policy. You're supposed to be strapped at all times. It's, not a fun rule. They want you to keep one loaded and on you, just in case the demons get you. It's better to put one in your brain yourself than let them torture you to death. Not fun to think about, of course.
Why are you telling me this? Rachel asked.
They'd tell it to you tomorrow anyway. It doesn't get any more fun when they say it. Anyway, that's not the point. Brady told me how you came in. You shot some guy. Dude was trying to fuck you up. Brady said your piece was hot, and you gave it to him to dispose of it.
That's true.
You're not the first tiefling to come in here fleeing from a crime. Happens all the time. Hell Patrol rarely ever gets us clean. They get us at our lowest. But you must be pretty shook up, and you probably don't feel that safe.
Well, you're right about that, Rachel said.
Look, tomorrow they normally give you the piece when they hand out the rest of the shit. But if it makes you feel better, I'll give it to you tonight. Would that make you feel better, having one under the pillow? Henry asked.
That would make me feel pretty fucking good right now, Rachel admitted. I'd feel a little more in control.
Yeah, Doc Ackwood ain't the only mental health professional in the building. I got a little friend from Austria here. He's an ex-cop. He'll help you sleep, Henry said.
Henry reached into his jacket and pulled a semi-automatic pistol out of his pocket. Rachel recognized it as the kind of gun that cops carried.
Sloppy seconds from the police department, but they still work just fine. It's loaded, so don't be stupid, okay? You're not supposed to be able to walk around in here locked and loaded until you're fully suited up and ready to rock.
I'll be good, Rachel said.
Atta girl.
Henry handed her the gun. Have you seen Alex, my friend I came in with earlier? Rachel asked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I showed her around earlier. Listen, she's sleeping right now, at the end of the cell block. See the one with the curtains closed? Yeah, you'll see her tomorrow. You know, working girls have weird hours. She needs to bed down and reset herself, Henry explained. You should too. It's not like there's much else to do. You might as well sleep it off. I'm going home.
You got a nice apartment somewhere? Rachel asked.
Nah, I own a house outright. No mortgage. Hell Patrol got me paid. Don't worry, you'll get there too. We'll be sitting in my living room watching shitty movies, drinking beer, and laughing about it. One day we'll be as rich and fat and stupid as any human fucker that used to spit on us, Henry said.
Thanks, Henry. I really appreciate it. You and Dr. Atwood and, even Brady a little, I guess.
Hey, don't worry about Brady. He is a prick, and he knows it. But he'll still do right by you, Henry said,
as he waited for a fire truck to pass outside.
Now go the fuck to sleep, okay? No excuses, I gave you a security blanket.
Hey, alright, Chapter 7 recap. So, before we talk about what happened in the chapter first, I want to talk a little bit about writing and how the style of writing is going to work for this chapter and the next couple chapters. Chapter 7 is super dialogue heavy. Actually, it's more appropriate to say it's monologue heavy, where a character like Rachel, who doesn't know anything about anything, not because she's stupid, she's just, ignorant to all of the shit she's getting herself into. Anyways, so a character that doesn't know anything asks a character that is authoritative on a topic, and then the character that is the authority explains it. And that's going to happen a lot more as we go through the Hell Patrol lore and the demonology lore. People that have more advanced knowledge on the topics of cars, guns, demons, etc., are basically going to be giving Rachel and you, the reader, a crash course in what this universe is all about. And I'm doing that on purpose. For one, I love dialogue writing. Writing dialogue is my favorite thing to do when I'm writing fiction. And I also like using dialogue exposition as the primary narrative for telling you what's happening in the world. This is because, when we communicate through dialogue, the character is telling you what they know. And the character is an unreliable narrator because, of course, these characters only know what they know. They're not an omniscient narrator. They're not an eye from God that's, describing what the characters are doing. They are saying what they know in their own words. So you, the reader, you're never going to know if everything a character says is the absolute truth. Because if the mouth of God narrator says it, you know it's true because it's the mouth of God narrator. But if a character says it, the character only knows what the character knows. And that's my preferred way to kind of introduce you to the universe and tell you what's happening. There should always be a little bit of mystery, a little bit of doubt. You need to leave some strands of fate unraveled. You can't solve every mystery, because if there's no mystery, there's no romance. And if there's no romance, then rough sex just isn't as good. All right. So that's what's happening. There's a lot of dialogue. There's going to be a lot of dialogue. And Rachel and all her friends, previous to this part of the book, don't really know shit about anything. Up until Rachel actually joins Hell Patrol, the only person she knows who really knows anything about anything is Johnny. And what does Johnny know about? Well, Johnny knows how not to go to jail. And that's basically it. But now that Rachel is actually in Hell Patrol, she gets to talk to people who are actually professionals at shit and know what they're talking about. Or at least you as the reader, well, you have to decide whether you believe them or not. You have to decide if they know what they're talking about. And you better hope that they do, because we're going to start killing zombies and demons in a couple of fucking chapters. I almost said zombies and Siemens. Rachel's been killing Siemens for a minute, though. That was awful. All right. Let's talk about what we've learned in this chapter, and we'll dive a little bit into the lore. We finally learned the name of that weird guy, the recruiter. His name is Marshall Brady. And from now on in the text, now that we know his actual name, he won't be said the staff sergeant or the sergeant or the recruiter. It will actually be Brady. Because, it's like we've put a name to that face now. We learned a little bit of Hell Patrol policies, how they work, and also a little bit of history of Hell Patrol. We've learned that Hell Patrol does a way better job of protecting its members than it used to. It used to be they would just shove tieflings in cars and say, go nuts. And the attrition rates of that were horrible. They were so bad that Hell Patrol realized that like they had to stop. They had to start giving the tieflings some kind of training and preparing them for success, because otherwise it just wasn't going to work. It accomplished the goal of getting rid of tieflings, but they didn't get rid of enough demons doing it. And they eventually realized that, hey, getting rid of tieflings that nobody wants is okay, but actually setting up the tieflings to do their job right and killing a bunch of demons is way better. So that's happened. So we kind of learned some of the horror stories of what Hell Patrol used to be like years before Rachel joined. Hell Patrol itself is not that old. Hell Patrol is only a couple of years old, maybe like 3 or 4 years old as an organization. So when Henry and Brady talk about the bad old days, the bad old days they're talking about are like 2 years ago in canon. Okay. Well, we also meet Dr. Marge Atwood, who is lovely, and she is the on-staff shrink for Hell Patrol. And Dr. Atwood explains authoritatively where demons and tieflings come from in the Hell Patrol universe. Now, this much I can at least tell you is canon, and Doc Atwood is 100% correct. So, the origin of tieflings in the Hell Patrol universe is real demonology. This is real life stuff. It's based on the Malleus Maleficarum, which is a 15th century tome written by an excommunicated mad German monk named Wikipedia article. See, I went to Wikipedia, so you didn't have to, just to get a refresher. It was Heinrich Kramer, and he was a Catholic German monk who was later excommunicated for writing this shit. And it was published in Germany in 1486. And he wrote this book called The Hammer of Witches, and it's all about witches, demons, witchcraft, finding witches, punishing them, and of course demonology. The Malleus Maleficarum is the 15th century encyclopedia of demonology. And in it describes how succubi and incubi steal genetic data from humans while raping them, and then they use those sperm and eggs to create pregnancies that result in tieflings. Well, I don't know if I want to get into that. So technically, in the Malleus Maleficarum, and this is a little confusing. I'm using some terminology loosely, so I'll clean this up right here. In the Hammer of Witches, when a succubus steals sperm to produce a child, that child is a cambion in the definition of that book. However, in the Hell Patrol universe, that's what we call a tiefling, which is a child that has been incepted through surrogacy by a demon, but is still a human. But as I said, in the Hammer of Witches, that is a cambion. In the Hell Patrol universe, a demonic pregnancy that is still human is a tiefling, and a demonic pregnancy from an actual devil and a human pairing is a cambion. However, this is also something else that's from the Bible. Human devil hybrids or human angel hybrids, as Dr. Atwood explains, in the Hell Patrol universe, a devil is a fallen angel and a demon is a demon. They are distinct and they are different. But because demons are formerly angels, angels are capable of reproduction with humans. This happens in the Bible with a group of angels called the Watchers. And the Watchers are the angels that God entrusts to watch over the humans. But what happens is they get horny and they go down to Earth to fuck human women, which gives birth to monstrous half-angel, half-humans called Nephilim. God sees the Nephilim, and he orders the angels to wipe out the Nephilim and reset the earth and eliminate the scourge of their taint. And this is what actually causes the biblical flood. God causes the flood to wipe out the taint of the Nephilim. That is actually the biblical source of the Great Flood. And those angels, the ones that fucked humans and created Nephilim, all get sent to hell. Those angels are actually in hell before Lucifer's rebellion and the war in heaven. So there were actually angels in horny jail in hell before the Morning Star's rebellion. So that's canon. So theoretically, in Hell Patrol lore, Cambion and Nephilim are interchangeable because a Cambion is a Nephilim. A stolen sperm pregnancy that is still technically human is a tiefling, and a fallen angel pregnancy that results in a Nephilim is a Cambion. And that's how it works in the Hell Patrol universe. It kind of mixed a little of the D&D lore with the actual biblical lore. I'm sure if I ever had to like go back and I don't know if tiefling is a copyrighted word, but if it was, then I would have to change tiefling to Cambion and Cambion to Nephilim. So that's a little confusing, but it is all based on practical demonology. So that like that's happening in universe. So again, if you think all the weird cringy talk about edgy demon rape is just like me being some 4chan tier weirdo, that's not me being the weirdo. That's literally some fucking cringy ass excommunicated 15th century mad monk that literally wrote a book about succubus snowballing human sperm. That happened. The truth is stranger than the fiction. All right. Well, that was fun. Do we have anything else that happened in this chapter that we need to talk about? Okay, so we talked about where tieflings come from. And again, as I said, it's 100% canon. Atwood is not lying, and she does have the correct information. The majority of tieflings, most of the tieflings in the novel, the Red Devil-style tieflings, they are 100% human. They have just been demonically contaminated because of succubus snowballing. Whereas Rachel, well, Rachel's probably a Cambion. Her father is very likely a fallen angel. We pretty much know that at this point. It just hasn't actually been, like, confirmed. So that happened. Okay, so after Rachel talks to Doc Atwood, she goes back down to the barracks, the converted jail. Henry gives her a gun to help her sleep, and she conks out. Now, coming up next, in Chapter 8, we see the actual Hell Patrol onboarding process. We're going to see how new recruits are processed and assigned weapons and vehicles and to join Hell Patrol and, then eventually go out and kill some fucking shit. But like I said, if you're sitting around waiting for the kill demons part, that's not what this book is about. This book is about the origin story of how someone goes from just being a poor tiefling on the street to actually becoming a Hell Patroller. But don't worry, we will kill a shitload of zombies and demons eventually. It's just not the focus of the story. So, what's going to happen in Chapter 8? I literally just talked about that, so I don't need to repeat myself. Oh. The next chapter we get to meet my favorite character in the whole fucking book. Alright, actually, one more thing. In the next chapter, we are finally going to get we will get all the lore about the war with Hell that we're going to get in the story. Like, we will finally reveal everything that you are allowed to know about the Hell War. And, that's about it. Thanks for listening. Come back for Chapter 8. It's gonna be a doozy. And, we're going to meet some of my favorite fucking people in this book. Have a fucking good one, and don't snowball succubus sperm. You know, or do. And you'll give birth to a hot, sexy, red demon baby. Yeah!